Hello everyone and welcome back to Hardware Reviews. We haven't done one in so very long, and we start with something big, something gigantic, something that won't even fit in the frame. It's this giant box thing. Actually, it's not in the box anymore, it's behind me. It's the big monitor there. This is an AOC CQ32G1 32-inch gaming monitor with a curved screen because they don't make flat ones anymore for some reason. It is a QHD screen with a resolution of 2560 by 1440. It has FreeSync technology. It's a VA panel, a wide viewing angle VA panel, meaning that the curved thing is even more perplexing. It is a 144 Hz panel with a 1 millisecond response time, and it has a bunch of neat things, like it's big. Also, it cost a lot. Bought this one with my own money. Being able to afford things is a new thing to me. It's because I have two jobs, which don't afford me the time to actually, enjoy life, but I can buy stuff like this and this. I barely know how to play this, but I bought it anyway. Also this thing, which will be in a future review. But first, before getting to the actual proper review of this giant monitor, there's a very important thing to know. All our videos will have a 1-day exclusivity period for Libry.com. LBRY.com. It's the decentralized video distribution system we've been using for like 3 years, almost since it launched, and they have given us an exclusivity, sort of timed exclusivity partnership, which means we'll be getting more money from them, and the videos will make it to YouTube 1 day later. It's no issue, shouldn't be a problem. You'll still be able to watch them, but we would really want you to watch them on Libry.com, because it's a decentralized platform, meaning that there aren't any copyright trolls. There is no system put in place to screw us every time we upload something that contains a copyrighted frame that's somehow owned by some company in the nether regions of Brazil that nobody ever heard of. Not even them, probably. So it's a more free and open system, which is great. I mean, it's great to have something that isn't strangled by corporate overreach, by the dying mainstream media. It's also got the because it's an open platform, I wouldn't say it attracts, but it's sort of starting to court the nut jobs a bit as well, so hopefully it'll still be valid in a couple of months and not turn into a... Well, you know what Steam it turned into, so here's hoping it lasts, because it would be nice to have a platform that actually works as intended and not to satisfy the needs of a few oh so disturbed individuals. But now, let's go into the actual review of this gorgeous monitor. The other one, by the way, is the LG one. The BenQ one still works. I just gave it to somebody else. So none of the monitors broke. I just really wanted a big one. Why? Well, I got one at work, not a 144 Hz one. Though they have bought, on occasion, high refresh rate monitors for an application that updates the screen once every 3 seconds. I work for that kind of company, but anyway. Why did I buy this monitor apart from dementia setting in? Well, there was a time when you would have something called a 16 by 10 monitor. Remember those? They were neat back in the day. Monitors that would let you actually see a bit more in the vertical, if you will. Like a couple of more lines, not a lot. But when you're dealing with timelines and, interfaces that are really crowded, having that extra couple of pixels there, a few more pixels, that was actually something very nice to have. Sadly, we're all using 16 by 9 monitors right now, so the only alternative is to get a bigger monitor, a bigger resolution. You're not gonna go 1120 by whatever the resolution was for a 16 by 10 monitor. We're gonna go with a 16 by 9 monitor that it is of the resolution of 2K or 4K. And since a 4K monitor still kind of costs an arm and a leg, especially one that's high refresh rate, I went with the 2K one. And boy, just seeing the timeline in DaVinci Resolve fit on this one is amazing. It's an experience unto itself. It just looks so perfect. I want to cry. I want to cry because I've spent, whoa, a whole lot of years editing on 1080p or the 5:4 ratio or 5:4 ratio. I think that's what the last one was, of 1280 by 1240, 1024. I mean, you can only cram a lot on the screen, but with this one, everything just fits, and I can use the second monitor, for the bins and stuff, and it's superb. I would have actually wanted to use the TV that's up there for the actual output of the video, like the preview, but that's not in the free version of DaVinci Resolve. I could get Adobe Premiere again, but again, that is not free either, and I don't earn that much more money in order to pay the monthly subscription to Adobe, which, oh man, am I glad I'm rid of that. So, you're probably thinking, well, this is a gaming channel, it's called Gaming HE, why are you talking about video editing? How is this for gaming? Well, it's great. For the most part. I've seen a lot of videos about this monitor where they were saying, oh yeah, it's superb, it's great, but there may be a bit of ghosting. And they don't really go into detail about how much ghosting there is. And I'm gonna get that, but first, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Actually, I don't have a... Oh, wait, there it is. The elephant is actually a dragon. But besides that, this is a 144 Hz monitor. And you're probably wondering, if you haven't used one of these monitors, haven't seen one of these monitors yourself, is it worth it? Does it produce a noticeable effect? Can the human eye see more than 24 frames a second or campaigns longer than 4 hours? Which, as you know from the marketing of the PlayStation 4, no, the human eye cannot. But turns out that, yeah, you can notice what is essentially a smoother experience above 60 Hertz, above 60 frames a second. It is a hell of a lot more noticeable than the 75 frames a second that this one can pump out with its 75 Hertz, and hopefully that thing won't stop on the background and erase all my recording. It is, without a doubt, a better experience. Now, I'm not saying this is gonna make you a better gamer, better at shooters, better at real-time strategies. You already need to have, reflexes and maybe a mouse that's not equipped with a office-grade sensor, but it's sold as a gaming mouse. Gonna get to that as soon as I can. I promise. It's gonna be a weird experience with it. But even if you're not like a Twitch shooter, even if you're just somebody that enjoys games, the extra fluidity is just so smooth to your eyes that you will enjoy games a tiny bit better. Games with a lot of motion, games with a lot of frames per second. With the occasion of getting this monitor, I noticed that a lot of games I've been playing, they have a cap at 60 frames a second, because consoles couldn't do any more than that, and unlocking them would require some fundamental changes to the engine that would sometimes completely break them. Like what we've all seen with Need for Speed Rivals, when if you decided to go over 30 frames a second, the engine just went insane. Also, I am a bit at a disadvantage that my current video card, the RX 480, although it is a good video card, it can run Doom 2016 on this monitor at 144 frames a second. Not constant, but most of the time on the lowest setting, and with a resolution downscale. it's not what you would call the best video card to actually go with this monitor in its current form for modern games, so that's why I couldn't really showcase it with modern games and most of the background footage you're going to see in this review. I have, however, planned for a while to get an upgrade in the form of a Radeon, not a Radeon, but a GeForce 3000 series if they do not cost an arm and a leg. This will happen sometime next year, so it's still going to be a while off. Firstly, I'm just going to enjoy the fact that I can now see some games in above 60 frames a second, a bit more than the 75 frames a second. I could see them like vividly crunch into my eyes on the LG monitor. Rainbow Six Siege, sadly, even if I run it on the lowest settings, will not hit 144 frames a second. It is completely GPU bottlenecked at this point on this resolution. I could probably run it at a lower resolution, but that would add a bit of blurriness because it'll have to upscale the resolution from the 1080p to 1440p, and it won't look as good. And I kind of want this to look good, like superb. If you're wondering about the input lag, I haven't noticed any issues. But again, I'm not a Twitch shooter gamer type person. I don't have super duper mega ultra instinct reflexes, and I don't have the equipment to actually properly test out the input lag or the color correction, the color accuracy. I still don't have those tools, but I do have a faster camera and a better camera than I had back when I reviewed this thing, so for one, you're not seeing it like this anymore. You'll complain about that. I get it, it was an odd way to frame a review, but now I have space because I moved the couch so I can put the camera a bit backwards. I did manage to get a couple of 124 frames a second videos of the monitor. So it was sort of like a slow motion thing. The camera can only do 120 frames high speed imaging. It cannot do 144 frames a second, which would have been the ideal thing to get this monitor, to sync up. Now, technically, this monitor can also run at 120 hertz if you wanted to. So I could have probably done that and they would have been synced, but I kind of wanted those extra 24 frames a second for some reason, though 120 will probably be not noticeable to me because it's still double 60 frames a second. It'll still be a lot. It's the difference between being double of the old monitor and double of this one. So it's still a difference, but it shouldn't be gigantic. I guess. Should have probably tested it, but I didn't. So let's move on to the other important things. How much did this cost? Well, this thing cost me around 330 euros, which is about 360 or 370 bucks. And I did see it on Amazon for $312, which makes me kind of think I may have overpaid. And certain aspects of it do make me feel like maybe this one was supposed to be a bit cheaper. For one thing, the stand, which you can't see because it's covered by the music thing. The stand is basically just a wedge, like a V-formed wedge. It's a simple stand. It's made of metal. It's not plastic, so it is sturdy. It will absolutely hold up the weight of the monitor. It doesn't really rock around a lot because it's really heavy. But all you have on it is a bit of a tilt to it, like small vertical tilt. Well, yeah, vertical tilt. In case you're not at the same level, eye level as the monitor. It doesn't swivel, it doesn't pivot, it doesn't have height adjustment, which I would have thought it had height adjustment since, it could have used it a bit, but it doesn't. It's a really, really, really cheap stand. However, it does have that VESA mount behind it, so you can probably put in a more expensive, more versatile monitor arm later on, which I will not. I will absolutely not. This already cost me a bundle. Other strange aspects of it, even though it runs perfectly at 144 Hz, when you boot into Windows, it runs at 60. It will turn itself into 144 Hz refresh rate, but it takes like a second to do it. And it kind of bothers me because I don't remember doing that when I first got it. It just started doing it a couple of days later. And I'm not sure why. I think it may be due to Windows being screwy or something to do with the Radeon software thing. Who knows? It's a weird situation. These things tend to happen from time to time. Other than that, I've had no issues with it. In terms of the options it gives you, you have a couple of them. You can set some profiles either in the actual menu that it is on the monitor, or you can use the software that it probably comes with. I'm not sure. I don't have a CD drive anymore, so I'm not sure if there's any software on the disk. But on the website of the manufacturer AOC, you can download like 3 or 4 different programs that let you use most of the menu that is available on the monitor itself. One of them has almost all the features. The other one is more gaming branded and looks a bit more gamery, but doesn't have all the features. And some of the features you may want to use a bit often. Well, you can color calibrate it. I haven't done any color calibration with it because so far it looks almost the same as this one, which I'm okay with, but how should I put this? The colors are a bit deeper, so you're seeing red. When this monitor reaches the maximum amount of red it can display, it's all red. But this one, it's like it goes a bit deeper into the red. Like there's a bit more space there, and because it's a VA panel, the contrast is a bit better. It can deal better with black color. It can do better with darkness. It's an advantage that VA has at the expense of speed and sometimes viewing angles. But again, this one, because it's something they call the wide viewing angle VA panel, doesn't really have issues with viewing angles, though it does have this curve, which is kind of pointless because from any angle I watch it, it has kind of the same viewing properties as this IPS. And mind you, this isn't an expensive IPS, so it's probably not as great as some other IPSs that would have better viewing angles, but they're comparable. So still don't get it. Why is it curved? The curvature actually introduces some artifacting because in a totally dark scene, well, not totally dark, but mostly dark scene, you will see some bands, like color band, light bands, if you will, in certain areas where I think the backlight LED panel is, curved, like it's segmented in a couple of segments, and you kind of see a bit where I think maybe the LEDs are closer together or something, I guess. You don't see them most times in normal lighting conditions when you're playing something that has some light in it, but in totally dark regions you may sometimes see them, especially if there actually is some lit element next to them. By the way, in terms of backlight bleed and the LED, it would be actually VA glow, not IPS glow. There is like some sort of like it's curved in the top and the bottom a bit. You couldn't see a picture in the background. It's not something you're going to notice in most situations, but it is there. Thankfully, it isn't distracting. But where is I? Oh yeah, I forgot about the options in the menu. The menu will give you a bunch of options with setting of the gamma, which are labeled gamma 1, 2, and 3, which would have helped if it had a bit more information or let you create a more of a complex gamma pattern. But it's okay. It's not a super duper great menu. It doesn't have what you call it, actually it does have the black level thing. It's called black level on this one, but it's called shadow level on this one. And you can set it to whatever you want to in case you want shadows to be brighter, more washed out, less contrasty. It's basically got most of the features that this one has. What sort of like the same drawbacks that this one has. For example, if you want to insert black frames, to improve responsiveness, you're gonna have to disable FreeSync, which I don't think actually is warranted because this one works actually well enough. I haven't noticed any issues with it needing more or less in terms of responsiveness. However, one thing that I have noticed is the ghosting. It does come with some options, so the overdrive option in it, which will let it sort of handle some of the ghosting that occurs. And one of the settings is called boost, and that is not available when you're using FreeSync. So I'm not going to use it because I kind of like FreeSync a bit more than reducing the ghosting to nothing. Now, the thing about the ghosting is that it shows up on this monitor mainly when you're dealing with huge differences between a moving object and a static background. Like if it's bright red on dark cyan, or cyan, I think you pronounce it that way, you will notice some heavy ghosting because as the pixels move, before they turn from red to cyan, they still have an afterglow. They're not turned off fast enough. The thin film, the VA bit, the layer of transistors, of semi-transparent or transparent transistors, translucent transistors, whatever you call them, the VA strip, that isn't fast enough to switch between the red and the cyan. It does do it eventually. It takes about a second, but that leaves a trail of an after image. And that is noticeable to what extent? It will be noticeable if you're using a dark theme, like in Windows, you have small white text on black backgrounds. It will be noticeable. If you turn on the overdrive component on low, that will alleviate it a bit. But turning it on strong will eliminate ghosting completely, but it will add something else. It will add, I think, forward ghosting or so. I'm not sure exactly what it's called. It's ghosting, but in reverse. It overdrives the pixels that are in front of the moving object, so it sort of moves the thing before it moves itself, if you will. It's ghosting, but in reverse, and it's super noticeable. So never use the strong setting because it just looks horrible. With low, however, there's still some ghosting, but it's manageable. I've only really noticed it like when I'm looking at it in games like Counter-Strike Go, where they have very little variation of actual brightness, like brightness and contrast on the screen. The game is usually evenly lit, apart from, let's say, bloodstains. When bloodstains happen, moving your mouse or moving in the game world near them, you can see that they smear a bit, that their outline smears, and that the color inside them shifts a bit as the pixels, like the dark red pixels, are turned off and turn into the background. But before they turn to the background, they sort of have the combination of the color of the blood and the color of the background, which sometimes goes a bit yellow, a bit green. It's an effect that will make it stand out a bit. I wouldn't say it's disturbing, but it is there, and you will need to get used to it. Otherwise, you're gonna find it a bit distracting. Now, I hadn't noticed it, but it also occurs in racing games. It actually occurs quite a bit in racing games in the Crew, because that's the only one that I thought I could run at 144 Hz, when I realized, oh my god, yes, this thing is locked at 60. I can't get more frames out of it. That would be hilarious, wouldn't it? But even at 60 Hz, because it's a thing related to the monitor itself, not to the games, you can see it. But you can only see it on replays. I've seen it only because I recorded with the camera at 60 frames a second and at 120 frames a second. And that's the only place I could actually notice that as I move closer to cars in front of me, they sort of shift forward, like a ghost of theirs shifts forward as the cars are moving towards me. In actual gameplay, I couldn't see that. I didn't. It wasn't noticeable. The backgrounds, you could see some color degradation in the edges, where the same thing with the blood. The colors would sometimes mush together in the outlines of objects, especially if they're thin, small objects. That will be a more pronounced effect because there is not much more to the object than the thin line. But other than that, it's not as terrible as I thought it would be when I started scrolling through the dark theme of Windows and noticed that text became unreadable when you scrolled. Now, text is usually unreadable when you scroll it, unless you have a 144 Hz FreeSync monitor, which this kind of defeats the purpose. Like this ghosting kind of defeats the purpose of that test that NVIDIA came up with the pendulum, the swinging pendulum. I mean, if the text was of a different color, like a powerfully contrasting color to the pendulum itself. But still, it's not a major issue, I would say. It should work for most people. Hopefully. I even tested it with dark games. Yeah, well, the darkest game I had was Gloomwood, and it worked okay. You would see some scenes where bits of darkness would just sort of follow you around a bit more, but it kind of worked. And if it does get too much for you, you can enable something called a bright frame in the menu or the gaming software thing, which basically ups the contrast of either a region of the screen or the whole screen, and kind of sort of fixes the soul ghosting thing, because there won't be such a big difference between the image that's moving and the one in the background. And when that distance shrinks, it doesn't really have any more issues. So it's fine, I would say. So should you get this monitor? Well, if you enjoy gaming on 144 Hz with a big ass screen that's really, really good for editing, sure, why not? Because the stand is kind of terrible. Like for this price range, I would say maybe check if it's available for cheaper than what I paid for it. Because in this price range, you kind of expect stands that are, superb, not just meh. But other than that, you really don't have a lot of options. VA is the way to go in this price range. IPS does better. Like, IPS does much better. There's basically no ghosting on this one. Yeah, it's 75 Hz, but there's no ghosting on it at all. Even the old one, no ghosting. But IPS panels that are 144 Hz are a lot more expensive. They're sometimes double this price. So you will need to sort of think to yourself, what's more important? Saving up another year to buy a monitor with no ghosting, or get one that has some ghosting but is available right now. Also keep in mind that you will absolutely need a more powerful video card than an RX 480 if you want to truly enjoy all the hertz, all the resolution, all the things. The system, by the way, isn't FreeSync 2, so there is no HDR. Also, there's no low frame rate compensation, even though on some versions of the website and on some stores it says it has that. It's a FreeSync interval from 48 to 144. It works fine, but in some cases I saw it being listed as between 20 and 144 or between 30 and 144. And that's a lie. Even the AMD software tells you 48 to 144. And it's not great, considering that this one went from 40 to 75, but you do have kind of a almost 100 frames a second of interval there, so it should be okay. Though low frame rate compensation, again, for this price, it kind of should have been there, but it's not. So I like it. It's big, it's gigantic, it's amazing, and it's gonna make some games really beautiful to play on. I can now play Heroes of Might and Magic 2. Well, I could also play it on my 4K TV, which is bigger than this one, but now I can play it on a monitor while something plays on the TV. So I can dual task. I can dual box. What do you call it? I can multitask. I can do more things at once, like Napoleon did, and then he died. And it looks like my camera is gonna die soon because I forgot to charge the battery all the way through. So should you buy this? I don't know. I did. I'm hoping to not regret it. So far it hasn't exploded. It hasn't done any weird things like what happened to this one when I got it. And it didn't, like, the video card wouldn't work. Though I think that may have been more to do with the PC itself being a bit squirrely. Especially the terrible, horrible motherboard I used to have. So I'm gonna see you again soon with a new review of this thing, this mouse thing, hopefully. And again, this video is coming to you with a 1-day timed exclusivity to Libre.com, which is both a site and an app you download. Somewhere around here, I think I do have it, right? I think I have it installed or something. Yeah, it's there. It's that thing there. It's that thing. So it's something. Well, I hope to have more shows for you soon. Actually, you're probably going to see more shows before this one because this is more of a bigger project that took a while to do. So there will probably be quicker projects in the works before it. Hopefully. Maybe. I'm not sure exactly. But maybe there will be. Goodbye.